SP. As always, I'm your host, Josh. Tonight's guest, we know him as Jay Millie. We've seen him on not only his own content, but we've seen him on things like the Creator Challenge, the Imposter series that Foundation did, and recently the Go Throw tournament. I think that was down in Puerto Rico or something like that.
Yeah, it was down in Puerto Rico, a little A tier that I got invited to kind of last second, and made it happen. And I should be posting a video tomorrow about part of my experience. So really looking forward to putting some content out about it. It was a lot of fun.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So where are you from, and how did you even ever come to discover disc golf?
I am based out of DFW, Texas, and this is where me and my wife settled, but we're both from this area, so kind of stayed at home pretty much. I discovered disc golf back in COVID, but I feel like a little bit different than why everyone else kind of got into the sport. It wasn't really me looking to get outside and get out of quarantine or anything. Like, I've always been someone who's loved the outdoors and been into sports and being athletic and being competitive. It's kind of just happened at the same time where me and some of my really good college friends, one in particular, we were in Colorado on a trip, and we were looking for things to do, stumbled upon a disc golf course, decided to try it, really enjoyed it, went back for the semester, and they started to go pretty frequently. And that led to me going with them. And through that, I fell in love with the sport. Funny enough, I always hated on them. I would only borrow their discs. I thought it was so silly to need more than one disc or two discs. And I was like, I'm not buying a disc. I'll come with you guys and hang out with you guys, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. And it was probably 6 months in, I decided to buy a disc. After I got my first birdie, which I think is kind of the turning point for so many people when they start falling in love with the sport. And then, that's when I really started to get into it and kind of played all through college. And, around the time I graduated, decided to start doing this. So.
That's really cool. So, in college, did they have a disc golf team that you joined, or were you just casually playing with your buddies?
Yeah, so they had a disc golf team at A&M. I think A&M is ranked one of the highest in the country, actually. There's some really talented players on their team. A couple of the guys I know are over 1,000 rated, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
But I was playing very casually for, I guess it would have been my sophomore year is when I got into it. Then junior year, we started getting a little bit better, and we started watching Jomez and seeing the competitive side of it. And I take a big issue with the way tournaments are promoted and how to get into a tournament and how to sign up for one, because I personally don't think it's very new to the sport friendly. Because I wanted to play tournaments, but it was so confusing to me. Why is where you register called the disc golf scene, but then it's attached to the PDGA? It should just be on the PDGA page or something. It's just way outdated. And I wanted to play tournaments, but I genuinely just couldn't figure out how to do it. And so, we just played for fun. I thought that, playing competitively on the A&M team was kind of out of my wheelhouse. So didn't really do anything competitively until when I started making YouTube videos. I finally figured it out how to sign up for a tournament and play one after doing tons of research, which I thought was unnecessary. And, like I said, I'm making it pretty clear. I take issue with it. I think it's a very dated process, and I think it's very you got to know someone, and I don't like that. I think we need to make the sport easier to get into and easier to sign up for tournaments and easier for everyone to access. So There you go. You got me on a little tangent right there.
Yeah, and then to top everything else off, if it's like a C tier or something, you need a PDGA number. Or if it's unsanctioned, you don't need it. And it's like, why are we making it so confusing?
Yeah, it's confusing, and the only way you know those rules are if you are attached to the right people or listen to the right podcasts or talk to someone who's in a club. Like, there's just no easy way to access that information other than being entrenched in the sport already. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's been so many people turned away from playing competitively or getting deeper into the sport just because it's so confusing. Like,
Yeah.
genuinely, the PDGA just needs to add a section on the PDGA.com that says, sign up for a tournament here. It is that simple.
Yeah.
Or something that, like, some kind of landing page on the PDGA.com page that's like, click here to go sign up for a tournament. That sends you to disc golf scene. It's stupid. I don't like it.
Yeah. And then top everything else off, when it comes to tournaments, like you got the whole rating thing. Even the ratings are outdated. It's just like that needs a huge updating to keep everything more competitive, because you have people that can shoot way over the rating, but they're rated so low.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't take as much issue with the ratings as I know some people do, um, because, it's a general metric. I think it does a decent job of showing how talented someone is at the sport. But yeah, I agree. Like, I think there's a handful of things that are dated and need to be updated. Like, my goal with everything I do is to grow the sport, get more people into it, because I really think it's one of those sports that anyone can play, all ages, all sizes, all
Mm.
body types, whatever. It is super accessible because it's free. All you need is a $15-$20 disc.
Yep.
And most people live within 10 minutes of a course. And so it's really just feels like one of those things that is the perfect storm of, like, why isn't disc golf one of the biggest sports in the world?
Yeah.
And so I have found a lot of freedom in the sport, a lot of competitive edge that I didn't have because I couldn't play, like, collegiate baseball or collegiate basketball. And so I'm hoping to share that with other people because I really do think it's a sport that is for everyone and can benefit everyone. So
Yeah. Plus, you can also bring athletes that like got to a certain point in their sport and they can't go any further. So it's a good spot for them to be like, hey, come over, do this sport. You can excel at your own pace or just stay where you're at. And it's like the sky's the
yeah,
limit.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, what's the disc golf scene like vibe out by you? Is it like super competitive, lots of tournaments and leagues, or is it just kind of like a tournament here, tournament there?
Yeah, I would say that the disc golf scene in DFW is pretty huge. There are a lot of tournaments. You can pretty much go on disc golf scene and look at tournaments, and there's going to be something every weekend, with 50 to 100 people signed up. And a lot of the guys are 1,000 rated plus. Like, you're always, if you sign up for a tournament, you're going to play against like Mason Marchbanks or GT Hancock or Jaden Rye or Emerson Keefe, some of the guys that are local to my area. So most of the time you're competing for second, because those guys kind of run it around here. But yeah, it's a good time, and I think there's a pretty good community of people who enjoy playing the sport and playing competitively.
Yeah, that's gotta be pretty cool. Like having like a pro that's on the tour, and then have him be like local, and then you get to like constantly battle with him and learn new things from him.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty good friends with Jaden Rye, who, I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a very talented player, newer to the scene, really just started full time touring and had a few really good finishes this year. And he's been able to give me tips on my form, and I've been able to give him tips on his content. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, in your area, like, what's your favorite course to like either compete and practice at, and is it different than like a course that you choose to go do a recording for content at?
Yeah, I have two courses that are pretty close to me, probably about 10 or 15 minutes. Well, I would say I have about 4 courses that are very close to me, 10 or 15 minutes. There's 2 that I frequent the most. They're called Heritage Park and Leonard L. Woods. Heritage Park is a more wooded track, a little bit longer, a little bit tougher. LL, Leonard L. Woods, is a pretty park style disc golf course. And so if I'm
Mhm.
going to film, I'm going to LL because it's open, there's baskets everywhere, like pretty much any shot, any length, any display of disc flight I need to do, I can do at LL on any hole. But like if I'm trying to get better, I'll go to Heritage because it's a much tougher course. You know, you have to shape lines, you have to throw quality shots, you know, you have to think about disc golf a little bit more. But yeah, I would say that both are beneficial for me. And like even LL, which I consider more of a content course, is super useful for playing in the wind because it's very open and putting in the wind and up shots. And, you know, you can kind of take advantage of any baskets that are in the ground if you know how to do it.
Yeah. So like when you're going to record, like do you basically have like your system down where you can quickly set up, record what you need to, or does it still take you a little bit to make sure you get the right angle, couple test throws, how'd that look?
I've definitely gotten more proficient. Like, I feel like I used to go out to the course and have a general idea of what I want to do, but I'd figure it out on the fly. Now it's definitely more like I know what I want and I can get it pretty quickly. And like, it used to be so often when I was editing my videos, I would be like, man, if only I had this shot, or if only I said this, or if only blah, blah, blah. And now there's pretty much never a time where I'm editing a video and I'm like, man, I should have got that, you know? And so that's very rewarding. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it still takes me a little while to set up the camera and get the right shot and whatever. But you
Yeah.
know, that's just how it goes.
Yeah, I've tried recording myself a few times and I just get so frustrated. I'm like, you know what? I'm just done. Doesn't work too well.
Definitely.
So what is like your training or practice look like when you're in season compared to like off season? I'm not sure if you guys have an off season down there in Texas or if you guys play all year round.
We can pretty much play all year round. Like I told you, a cold front ran through last night, so it's a little bit cold outside. But like in terms of snow, we don't really have any. The main issue is like, oh, if it's in the 30s or sub 30s or whatever, it's just a little bit brutal to be out there, especially if it's windy. But for the most part, yeah, like if I need to go out and film, I can still film, which is very nice. And that I think that's one of the big benefits of being in DFW where winters aren't that bad.
Yeah. So does like so do you like balance out like your content creating time and then your practice time, or are you more so just kind of like focusing on the content creating side and kind of like I'll practice when I have some free time?
Um, I'm a pretty big believer in I think Broderick has coined this phrase and I've quoted him in videos, but you know, just being an athlete, like I don't spend a ton of time practicing. I'm a big believer in kind of just working the kinks out on the course. I don't go to the field. I don't spend a ton of time practice putting, which I probably should at least practice putt. But for the most part, I prioritize my content creation over everything else because I really do think that that's the means that will move the needle for the sport. You know, if I'm a really good pro, I'm not going to move the needle for the sport, and my end goal is to grow the sport into a global, very popular sport, you know? And so, you know, I like to be competitive. I like to get better. I like to play in tournaments. And I think that's a good storyline for my channel. But
Hmm.
if I had to choose between grinding to be a professional and grinding to be the best content creator I can be and telling the best stories, I would choose being a content creator. You know, someone asked me earlier today, like, if you had the choice between being a top pro on tour and making good videos, which would you choose? And I'd say making good videos, like one day, yeah, maybe I'd like to play in a few tour events and hopefully place pretty well, maybe even compete for a win. But tour is really not the life for me. I have a baby and a wife, and if they're not there with me, I can't be away from them for more than a week, 2
Yeah.
weeks. I'm a family man at heart, and so content creation is going to take the cake uh, if you put it up against being a professional. So
Yeah, I mean that makes total sense. Like I understand like the family thing because like I have a wife and kid as well, and it's just like I couldn't imagine being away from them for to go do disc golf tournaments and stuff. So it would drive me nuts if I ever were to hypothetically get on tour, even though it's never going to happen for someone like me. But yeah, and like you're saying, like your content creation will reach out to more people and bring more people in compared to just being like the guy on tour.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I also think it's impossibly hard to kind of break into that top 5 upper echelon of guys. Like, there's really only 5 to 10 guys right now who are making a decent living on tour. Like, outside of that, it seems like most of those guys are kind of just making ends meet, if not losing a ton of money trying to compete. So I'd
Yeah.
rather not be in that situation.
Yeah. And then like the last two off seasons, we've been watching tour players just calling it quits, being like, "Yeah, I can't sustain my life out there anymore," and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it not only takes a toll on their budgets and making money and everything like that, but I'm sure so many of those people are like, even if they are making a decent salary, it sucks to be away from home for 8 months out of the year. And then, in the off season, especially if they're not making enough money during the year, it's like, oh, I need to play tournaments, and maybe there's no tournaments where they live. And so then it's the whole year that they're away from home. And I can just imagine that after a few years of that, I don't, like, I don't know how Paul's still doing it after all this time. I mean, I think
Yeah,
he has a little cushier version of that, but still not
yeah.
ideal.
No. Do you think do you think the pro tour will ever get like how the golf tour is? We're able to make a really good living, but and then not have to play at every tournament. Like some of those guys like pick and choose a couple tournaments a year, and they still have a very comfortable living.
Yeah, I think it'll be a long time before we see money like golf, but I always tell people I don't think it's if disc golf blows up, I think it's a when. So, like, I think disc golf is gonna blow up at some point. It obviously kind of already blew up a little bit during COVID,
Yeah,
but I think we're gonna see a really big explosion at some point, or maybe just incremental growth that takes over the market. But I don't think it's a if, I think it's a when. And so I do think money will become pretty lucrative on the pro tour. I just don't know when that's gonna happen. Obviously, like, no one has a crystal ball for
yeah,
something like that. Um, but I have heard people kind of call for more select events on the pro tour to build the hype around, build the legacy around, like, I think that I heard someone talking about the idea of, like, if there's less events on tour, more people will watch each event. Like,
yeah,
I think they were talking about the viewer numbers being down on some of the, like, honestly feels like filler events in between. And so I think there's two schools of thought. There's people that are like, oh, there should be an event every weekend. And then there's the people that it's like, it should be 10 events and each event should be super highly produced, super well done. People can watch it. There's cameras on every hole, pour all the money into those events, really make them elite. And I don't know. I don't know where I fall in terms of my opinion on that. But it obviously seems like the pro tour thinks that more events is better. So
yeah. I kind of wish the Pro Tour would kind of take notes from what we seen over in Europe, like because Worlds was over there last year, and that was amazing. Just the setup, the amount of people are showing up, and just on how big disc golf is over in Europe.
yeah, I think that they definitely do a really good job making it feel professional. I think part of the reason that it was so successful is the culture is just a little bit different over there. Um, but like I really do think that the Pro Tour is doing a good job with what they're working with. Like I think part of the reason the Worlds was so successful is I'm sure they lost money on that event. I can't imagine they made money from that. And at the end of the day, the Pro Tour is a business and they
Yeah.
need to make money to be sustainable. So I think trying to go all out on every Pro Tour stop like that would just be impossible and just not financially viable.
Yeah. That's true. So speaking of like the pro tour tournaments and stuff, so what was it like playing in the Creators Challenge and being able to play like with a couple like a good amount of the touring pros?
It was pretty surreal. Um, I'm very grateful to be in the position that I'm in. Like I said, I guess probably before this show, but I just recently went full time doing this. I'm also being a full time dad at home with my baby, so it's a little of this, little of that kind of situation. But I'm very grateful to have been able to take that leap and kind of see if it works. And it's the same for being in tournaments like Puerto Rico and being put on feature card with Will Schustrick and Luke Humphreys and Big Germ as it was to be in the Creator Challenge and hang out with a lot of those creators are my friends already, but hang out like I hadn't met Gannon or I hadn't spent an extended amount of time with Gannon before the event. And so it was fun to just hang out with him, chill with him, crack jokes with him, and then be around some of those other people as well. And then yeah, it was a pretty wild experience to be kind of revered uh, at the event. Like it was
Yeah.
the first event I had ever been to that it was like people would point at me and be like, "Oh my gosh, there's Jay Millie." Like I've had that experience on the course and at tournaments like locally, but being at that event, especially since I was in the Creator Challenge right before, there really weren't many people that walked past that didn't recognize me, and that was a pretty surreal thing to experience.
Yeah.
And I was obviously very grateful for that.
Yeah. Like I didn't know who you were until I watched the Creators Challenge and watched you hit the gritty. I was like, oh my god, this guy is awesome. Like, right there, I became a fan. I'm like, all right, this dude's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I'm glad to hear that, but I think there's also people that had the opposite effect of, oh, that guy hit the putt. Oh, he's grittying. I will never be a fan of this man. Like it was a pretty polarizing thing to do, but like I'm just being myself, and I'm not going to be for everyone. Like I'm going to be positive. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy myself, and hopefully grow the sport in the process. And I just have to be okay with the fact that not everyone's going to vibe with that, and maybe they'll like someone else that is doing the Creator Challenge more than I, and that's totally fine. And to each their
Yeah.
own. And I really hope they do it again next year. I think that things like that is what makes a Creator Challenge the best.
Yeah.
Like I was watching Broderick and Silas, and they had a little bit going the whole time where they had their sunglasses on and they were being too cool and just like, oh yeah, that was an easy shot, blah 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 blah. I think
Yeah.
things like that is what makes it the most entertaining, and I'd love to see some of the other guys, some of the other creators, some of the other pros next year kind of leaning into it and being silly. Like there was money on the line, we were competing, but we're there as content creators and we're there to entertain. So yeah, be silly, gritty, do
Yeah.
stupid stuff while we're playing. Like that's what makes it more fun. Like we were trash talking a little bit, but I'd love to see more of it next year.
Yeah. Yeah, the party podcast girls, they were messing with Gannon the whole time and playing pranks on him, shooting with squirt guns. It was
Yeah,
hilarious.
they got me a ton. One of the holes I was throwing my tee shot and I got absolutely laced with some water, and I ended up throwing a pretty horrible shot. I'd like to blame bad grip or getting razzed or whatever, but I was already
Yeah.
super nervous, so I might have just thrown a bad shot regardless. But hey, that's part of it. That's why it was so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, when you hit your putt and hit the gritty, it made me think of like my theory of like if I ever hit like a huge like 67-foot, 70-foot putt, I'm so treating it like a NFL touchdown. Like I'm gonna do a full celebration and everything.
Yeah. You gotta. I mean, that's what's gonna make the good clip that goes on the internet.
Yeah. So also, what was it like being part of the Imposter series?
It was pretty awesome. I really think they took a step in the right direction this year. You know, like last year it was already so great, but one of my big issues with it was I would have liked to see them do a little bit more talking head stuff where they interview players after and use some of that footage during the round or after the round and lean into that reality-esque show stuff this year. And I think they literally jumped a whole tier, if not two tiers, in terms of the production value and being there. Like it was so fun and such a blast. I think that they're gonna have to make some improvements again next year, but I'm certain that they will. Um,
Yeah.
because yeah, I mean, if you've listened to them talk about it, like I think that we went into each round already knowing who we were gonna vote out, and the play didn't really matter. So they're gonna
Yeah.
definitely have to figure out a way to make it a little bit more based on the shots we're throwing versus how we're talking and who we're hanging out with and etc. So
Yeah. Yeah, in my opinion, like they should do like no friends next year, just complete strangers.
yeah, I like that. I think it's really tough for them because you know disc golf being where it is, there's not really a budget to like screen people for a very long time and bring them out and hang out for a few days before filming even starts. So when they're bringing someone random on, it's like, are you just gonna ruin the whole show? Like unfortunately, Carlos was the only guy that
Yeah.
was a fan vote, and he did accidentally end up ruining the whole show. Kind of on
Yeah.
accident. Like he obviously wasn't trying to do that, but I'm sure it's gonna make them even more wary to bring people on that they don't know next year. Like I really do think that unfortunately it may end up going in the opposite direction where it's more foundation personalities or people they know or whatever just because they can trust those kinds of people to lean into the show,
Yeah.
be the imposter, etc. So
So do you think like the imposter game itself works better with like a group of buddies that y'all kind of know, or would it work better with like just random people?
I think there's two schools of thought. Like I think personally it works best for both because I think it either needs to be complete randoms or it needs to be buddies. Because if it's a bunch of people that know each other, it's like, oh, I know how you handle this situation. I know how you react in this situation. You're being sketchy. But if it's a bunch of randoms, no one knows anything. I
Yeah.
think it's hard though because people want randoms, people want the foundation personalities. So they need a little bit of mix of both. I think another aspect that's really hard is you either need a ton of AMs or you need only pros
Yeah.
because, you know, if an AM throws a bad shot, it's easy to be like, "Oh, he's an AM." But if a pro throws a bad shot, it's like, "Hmm, did the pro
Yeah.
do that on purpose?" And so it's really hard, and there's a lot of nuance to it. And like I said, where disc golf is as a sport right now, I just don't think that we have the opportunity. Like I don't think that they have the opportunity to make those kinds of decisions financially and just with the time constraints that they are working under. So it's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole time I was watching it, like I knew it was Gary just because like based on his shots from last year and like his putting, you could tell that something was completely off. But then I was also thinking like, what if there's two imposters? And I was like, Brody would be another good imposter because he could turn on and off like a light switch and nobody would be able to know. Like his
All right,
skills.
I think you cut out. You cut out for a second. What did you say?
Okay, so when I was watching, like I knew it was Gary, like the whole time. Like I knew he was the
Mm-hmm.
imposter just because last season, and then compared to like this year, you tell his shots and putts were a little bit off. And then I was thinking to myself, if there was a second imposter, it would be really like it would definitely be a good one to have like Brody, because
Oh
he could,
yeah, true.
because he could flip it on and off like a light switch, where he could shank a shot and then like make it look like he like didn't mean to, and like you wouldn't be able to tell if he
Totally.
was really messing up or not.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the whole time. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, so for the Go Throw tournament, like let's deep dive into this because it was really cool watching you on the featured card. So what was it like playing there at that course, and like what was it like playing with your card?
The course was awesome. It was definitely a birdie or die course. It was a pretty simple track. It definitely doesn't really stand up to some of the Pro Tour courses that are really hard and really technical and long and all that jazz. But I think it's a really fun course, and it was super duper windy. So, even on a short track like that, those guys were missing 140-foot holes because it was so windy, and so um, that was a lot of fun. It was a great time. Um, Playing with them was pretty awesome. Like obviously I've been put in these situations quite frequently recently,
Mm-hmm.
but before this year, I was just a fan of the game. I was just somebody who liked watching Jomez, liked watching OTB skins, etc. And so hanging out with Germ, hanging out with Luke, getting tips from them, getting hyped up from them, joking around with them was really, really cool. And they are the same people that they are on camera, and that's always really rewarding, to see someone be genuine in person and on camera at the same time.
Yeah. So if you had like the opportunity to play with anybody, any like three other guys from like the Pro Tour, like the MPO side, who would you put on like your card to be with you?
Like, am I filming a video or just
Filming a video
just
or even playing with them.
well, Gannon, like he's a funny goon. He's good vibes. He can throw insane shots. He's obviously the best in the world. So obviously Gannon. I think second, I mean, I got into the sport because of Paul Macbeth. I think he's the goat of the sport. I've talked to him a handful of times, but I really haven't gotten to I haven't gotten to spend an extended amount of time with him and chat with him very much. So I think it'd be really cool to do that. So I'd love to spend some time with him and hang out with him, and play around with him. And then last, ooh, that's tough. I don't even know. Oh gosh. I mean, I think I mentioned this earlier. A guy local to me that I'm good friends with is Jaden Rye, and so I'd love to have him on the card as well. Very talented player.
Yeah. Now, how about FPO? If you had to choose three FPO players from the Pro Tour, who would you choose?
Well, I got to pair up with Owen Scoggins for OTB skins in Puerto Rico, so I'd pick Owen. She's just a light, she's just a ray of energy, very positive, very fun, good vibes. Second, I mean, I think obviously Kristen Lott, she's not playing and she's retired now, but just was, definitely going to be one of the biggest what ifs for the rest of time because she's just so talented.
Yeah.
And then third, gosh, another situation of I don't really know who I'd put third. Kat Mersch.
There we go. Yeah, she would be a blast to be on a
Yeah,
card.
definitely.
Yeah, she's definitely got good vibes, and she looks like she knows how to have quite a few laughs while playing too.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. So what is in your bag this year? I know you recently posted up a video of what's in your bag this year, but for those who didn't catch the video, so what is in your bag this season?
It's kind of tough. I've done a few in the bags now, but I'm kind of wary of them because as a content creator, I'm pretty bad about keeping the same bag for an extended amount of time. I rotate things quite frequently.
Hmm.
Um, so when I do my in the bags, I kind of talk about the discs that will always be in there and have been in there,
Yeah,
um, and won't really move. But in terms of like what I throw is pretty stereotypical of like I always have an overstable, a straight, and an understable of every slot of
okay.
disc, and so sometimes like my really overstable distance driver is something that changes frequently because there's just so many of them and new ones coming out and etc. Like it was a gravity bomb, but then when the gravity bomb 2 came out, I switched to it, and
Yeah,
before that it was a super overstable Halo destroyer, and before that it was something else. And so it feels like one of those slots that can be interchanged. But like in terms of what I always throw, I
yeah,
have this very well loved seasoned Halo destroyer that has a decent amount of stability left, but it also has some good flip up on it. So I can trust that pretty hard on a forehand, pretty hard on a backhand. I have a disc that is the first disc I ever bought, which I have named Jimothy. It's a yellow buzz that is just, I mean, pretty much a Buzz SS, if not more flippy than a Buzz SS now. And that guy I break out just because I know it better than any disc in my bag. I typically bag a zone, but it's been banned from my bag until January 1st because of a challenge I did in a video. And the comment section picked to ban it through the end of the year. So I've been bagging an entropy in that slot, but I'll go back to the zone the second I can.
yeah.
And then what else? I've bagged a Raptor since I started playing, just a overstable fairway. It's
Hmm.
changed a few times just because I've lost discs and stuff. Um, I throw pretty overstable stuff, if I'm being completely honest. I can
So do
throw
I.
pretty hard. Um, I've been blessed with a decent amount of distance. So most of the time, if I'm throwing something really hard and it's flippy, it might roll or turn over on me or whatever. So
Yep.
I just have no touch, I guess.
I'm the same way. I'm overstable all the time because I throw hard and I have no touch at all.
Yeah, yeah, that's how it goes. But yeah, I don't know. I putted with inner cores for the most of the year from Trash Panda, but I just recently made the switch to Hooligan Dimes. So
Okay.
should be interesting. But
Do you
yeah,
throw any trilogy? Did you hear
no,
me? No, no trilogy at all.
0.
Oh my goodness, we gotta get you some trilogy, man.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like I said, I throw over stable, so
So do
I
I.
stay away. I stay away from trilogy.
Trilogy's known for overstable. Like they're felons and generals. Woo!
The general is like a roller dog.
No way. That
Every
thing
time
is.
I've thrown the general, it just like flips over on me.
Are you backhanding or forehanding it?
Backhand.
Okay, I flex forehand it. It's a beautiful flex.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, yeah. I mean, I'm obviously jibing. I know that trilogy has overstable stuff. I
Yes.
just never really been super drawn to it. I've tried some of their stuff, but yeah, I mean, nothing's stayed in the bag if I've had it. Yeah, can't think
Yeah.
of anything.
What have you tried? Can you remember or
I tried the harp and I thought it was all right on a backhand, but it was just not a good forehand disc.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't like the harp either.
I've tried a felon, but it was too understable for me for what I wanted it to be. I tried a general, but it was too understable for me for what I wanted it to be. I'm trying to think. I've tried a lot of the West Side stuff because I actually used to make content for them, but it was also just too understable for what I was hoping for most of the
Yeah.
time.
What about
Um,
have you tried the anvil? That's like a good approach, forehand approach.
yeah, I like the flight of it, but I didn't really like the hand feel.
Yeah. Now, when you tried the felon, was it a normal felon or was it a sake bomb felon?
I don't remember. It might have been a sake bomb felon. I'm not really sure, honestly.
Okay, because like the normal felons, my personal feeling about the normal felons is they're either too much beef, not enough beef, or no glide. So the
Oh,
sake
interesting.
bomb, yeah, the sake bomb felons, you can literally pull those things out of a box and they fly all identical. Perfect amount of glide, perfect amount of beef. Like it's just perfect. So
Ah, okay. There you go.
yeah, so if you're ever gonna try the felons again, definitely try and get like your hands on a sake bomb felon before they're all gone, because obviously they're
Ah,
not
yeah, there you go.
anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So what drew you to the inner core for putting?
I had loved it for a really long time throwing. It was one of my favorite approach putters. And so, I'm sponsored by Trash Panda. And so like I was like, "Oh, I throw this a ton. Maybe I'll try putting it too." And so I started trying it and I liked it a lot. But I couldn't really get the stiffness and the grip that I wanted for it, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted something with a little bit more bite, so I just recently made the switch to try dimes because I used to putt with P2s,
Okay.
um, and, those are pretty glidey, a lot of different stiffnesses and, uh, grips, and they have a little bit of stability at the end, so just just trying stuff out right now.
Yeah. So where do you feel comfortable, like your putting distance? Are you comfortable from circle's edge, or are you comfortable beyond that?
I would say one of the most comfortable places for me is circle two. I
Oh
feel
wow.
pretty confident in circle two most of the time, just because there's no real expectations. Like you don't have to make every single C2 putt.
Yeah.
Um, the Puerto Rico tournament was my worst showing in C2 ever. I don't think I made a C2 putt. It was super duper windy and I don't know, I just was having a lot of trouble with it, but it was one of my best C1 tournaments in
Yeah.
recent memory. So I don't know. It definitely comes in waves where sometimes it's just I make every C2 putt, and sometimes it's just not necessarily clicking that well. And I think that can be boiled down to mental game. And I think that's one of the biggest things in our sport, obviously.
Yep. So as we're wrapping this up tonight, do you have any questions for me?
No, yeah, I mean, we chatted a little bit before the podcast. What's your end goal with the podcast? What's a dream guest? What's a dream of yours to do with this?
My dream is to get everybody humanly possible that's in the disc golf world, like get an episode recorded for them, so that someday they can look back at it or send it out to a sponsor, being like, "Hey, this is what I'm all about." And I think it would just be a good way to grow the sport too, is showing people that you don't even have to be good at disc golf; you just gotta have a passion for it.
Yeah, yeah, I like that a lot. That's really cool.
Yeah. So, where can people find you so they can follow your journey?
I'm J Millie DG on everything. You know, go to Instagram, J Millie DG. Go to TikTok, J Millie DG. Go to YouTube, J Millie DG. That's all you need.
Perfect. All right, man. So thank you for being the guest tonight, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for being flexible with when we can make this happen. I know I kind of had to push last second and change a few times, so I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, anytime. Have a good night.